I'm excited to do this workshop because the two guys that are going to, and by the way, anybody who may have background noise, if you don't mind muting yourself, thank you. That would be super helpful. I'm excited to do this fireside chat today, guys, because, oh, hold on, guys. Can you guys mute yourself, please? Jenny, I have a Jenny. If you don't mind muting yourself, there's some background noise. Thank you. Guys, I'm excited to have Chris and Chris on because Chris Beyer and Chris Boling, who I'm going to let introduce themselves here in a minute, actually joined Chris. I think it was the first workshop, first academy I ever ran, if I am correct, back in 2020. And what I have been really proud about with these two guys is they have been consistent as heck in the last now almost 4 years of running content consistently. They're going to share their journey with you today, where they had their doubts, and what it's done for them in the last 4 years. But it's kind of full circle for me. First academy I ever decided to run, these guys joined it and came on with some skepticism, which we're going to talk about. But I'm excited to have these guys and introduce these guys to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them introduce themselves first, and then we'll go into a little quick intro presentation and dive right into the fireside chat. So Chris Beyer, take a minute to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Chris Beyer, live in Galesburg, Illinois. I've been on the broker side since 2016, spent time in the voluntary benefit space before that. So I've been in the insurance industry since I was a junior in college, 2003, and been working alongside with Chris now for almost the last 9 years.
And if anybody is interested, Chris just got to spend time in Green Bay and went to Lambeau Field to do sprints and broke his leg doing sprints. So Chris is joining us with some broken bones in his body.
Yeah, I'm a basketball player, not football. Do not do football. So
awesome. Chris Boling. It's going to be easy to remember these guys. Chris and Chris, CB Square. Chris, introduce yourself.
Chris Boling from Davenport, Iowa. I've been in the broker space, 34 years. Started my own agency between my sophomore and junior year in college. Did play football, so I won't injure myself if I decide to step on a football field. Got injured. I still had a bill to pay, and my parents said, well, how are you going to pay for it, Chris? And I'm like, I think I'll go sell insurance. So here we are 34 years later. Hard to believe that it's gone by that quick.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you guys. It's going to be a fun conversation. Again, anybody, as you're listening, if you have questions, can either just hold on to the question till the end or put it in the chat box, and I'll make sure to get it. So here's where we're going to kick off, guys. Why are we here? Why are we having this workshop today? Well, content is something that I, as you guys know, tend to talk about quite a lot. And it's a conversation that still gets a lot of pushback. And my goal today is to let Chris and Chris tell you about their journey, because I really believe content can change your business forever and change your life in many ways. And they're going to definitely talk about that. But a couple of things that I want to talk about. Number one, why are you here? Maybe you're here because you've seen Chris and Chris on LinkedIn. You think they're cool. You want to meet these guys. You've been on the fence about content and would like to hear how it helped some peers. Or, you know what? You're kicking some butt right now. You're just looking for more channels to create opportunity. That's where a lot of people sit. I'll tell you, one of the most common type of calls we field today is an industry veteran who's been doing this for a while. Has had a lot of success, but you know what? Things have adjusted. Things have shifted. We need another channel to have success. Chris and Chris are going to talk about that today too. Now, some of the challenges that we're seeing in the industry right now is, number one, traditional prospecting is tougher than it used to be. In fact, I'll actually say I read a statistic recently that cold calling is back on the rise as far as success rates go. Interesting. There are more insurance brokers than ever before. That is very true, no matter what market you're in. And here's the reality, guys. I don't care if you've been in business for 30 years, not enough prospects know you exist.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. Every one of us that got in the industry has been taught to go where our prospects are, right? I've shared this story a lot. You know, when I got in 23 years ago, I was told two things: dye my hair gray so I look older. And number two, go get a membership at a country club you can't afford because the CEOs hang out there. Well, guess what, guys? In 2024, you know where your targets hang out? Right here.
Yes.
This thing called the phone. So that's why we need to have a strategy to be inside the phone, because that's where their attention is. Now, what we're going to talk about today, guys, is prospecting strategy, right? And when we work with our clients, we often spend time looking at this chart right here. And I got this from a book written by Alex Hormozy, $100 Million Leads. If you think about how we reach out to prospects, there are 4 ways. We have cold one-to-one, we have warm one-to-one, warm one-to-many, and cold one-to-many. Every one of us has been taught cold one-to-one in this industry. The problem is there's still far too many advisors whose only strategy is cold one-to-one. And you have to have different ways of hitting your prospects today, which is what we're going to talk about down here in the lower left corner, warm one-to-many, mainly social media. Because if you look at this image, the way I have it set up, warm one-to-many supports everything you're doing above. Cold calling, drop-ins, emails, referrals, networking. Because the more awareness you build, all of the stuff up top becomes more effective because people know who you are. Now, let's quickly talk about why content isn't working for you if you're doing it today. This is going to set up the fireside chat. Number 1, I'm willing to bet your content is too me-centered. You're spending way too much time talking about your company, your agency, how long you've been around. Nope. Can you guys mute yourself, please? Nobody cares how long you've been around. Nobody cares about your logo. They want to know what's in it for them. So that's the first challenge I see with content. Number 2, you're talking to the wrong people. LinkedIn, I've had 2 people this week, and I had to hold myself back from commenting the way I really wanted to comment. I've had 2 people this week refer to LinkedIn as a fun platform. I'm like, that's why it's not working for you. You look at it like a hobby. It's a place to grow your business. And the problem is you're talking to your peers, not your prospects. Third challenge, and the biggest one, and this is the one we're going to talk about today. You're not consistent. You get hot for 2 weeks, post a bunch of content, and then you're gone for a month. You come back, you're gone. You're back, you're gone. People distrust inconsistency. That's true for your team, your boss, prospects. So one of the reasons I wanted Chris and Chris on is because if there are 2 guys that I've seen be more consistent with content, it's these 2 right here. The day they left our academy, they went to work and they have not stopped ever since. And that's why these guys are sitting on this webinar today. So with that being said, guys, I'm excited because what we're going to do is go through a fireside chat here. And I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to let these 2 guys share their journey with you. And my goal is by the time we're done today at the top of the hour, you're convinced that content needs to be a part of your strategy, especially if you're sitting on the fence. So, Chris Beyer, I'm going to start with you, my friend.
Yes.
When you guys joined the academy back in 2020, what led you to believe that, all right, we need to start creating content?
I think we initially joined the academy. Number 1, we were going through COVID and didn't know what to do. We were supposed to be out in Colorado with you for a week, and we, pivoted to virtual. But I think it goes back a year before that, Andy. You came and spoke at a conference that it was basically a consulting group our independent agency belonged to, and you were talking through just the infancy of content and sharing some of the creativity that you were using as a consultant. And so that's how we connected. But you said, hey, I'm going to do this course. I'm going to teach you how to differentiate yourself. And certainly COVID put a big crimp in our ability to go out and talk to people. But Chris and I also came off a year where we were 0 for 12 in opportunities where we thought we had the lead in that RFP, in the broker selection, just kept losing one after the other. And it was like, well, we got to do something new because we just joined Assured Partners. COVID shut the office down. We're on a losing streak. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Chris Boling, how about you? I know when you guys joined, and I probably should redirect this back at Chris Beyer, but you guys came to the academy with some doubts or some skepticism about content. Talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people definitely, even today, 2024, we still have some skepticism as to whether or not content, mainly social media content, is actually going to help them grow their business.
Yeah, when we joined your academy, I was forced to create a LinkedIn profile, and I had not updated that LinkedIn profile in 10 years. That's how much I loved LinkedIn. I don't think I didn't remember my password, I didn't remember my username. And I remember when Chris came to me and said, "Hey, we're going to spend X amount of dollars, and let's join this." And I kept thinking to myself, why in God's green earth do I want to put crap on LinkedIn, which I don't even like that site?
Yeah.
So
Well said.
I
Fire,
was
talk about your skepticism a little too, because I know you had some doubts.
Well, I mean, you said it before. I was connected to industry partners. In my space in the voluntary benefits world, I was in recruiting as well as sales. So I had anybody that had an insurance license as my network. I did not have connections that were ideal prospects. And so, all I saw in my feed was other insurance people. And there was no understanding that, okay, this could actually hit somebody that's going to pay attention to what I'm going to say. And who wants to listen to me anyway? I'm used to the one-on-one conversation. I don't use social media much outside of LinkedIn. So who cares what I have to say? And I think that was my mindset of this. We'll give it a shot, but it's probably not going to work because who wants to listen to the two of us talk about things all day long?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that's something a lot of people have doubts about, that
Yeah,
almost a lack of self-confidence a little bit, like who
true.
actually wants to listen to me talk or post content. I think that's really important, because I think a lot of people go through that. I know I went through that in 2014, 15 when I started. I was like, okay, I'm going to write some articles on LinkedIn, but who the heck is actually going to take the time
Yeah.
to read these? Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel you. Now, there's something, Chris Boling, you said to me on Monday as we were preparing for this workshop, and I want you to address this a little bit in length if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I want everybody to hear this one. You said something and it actually clicked for me. You said, the reason I think this whole strategy has worked for us is because we came to the academy. When we decided to make content part of the strategy, we were already confident in our ability to sell. Talk about that a little bit, because I think that was, when I heard that, I'm like, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone on this screen has had success, through their career. I had a great book of business. I found my groove, and then COVID hit. And it was, I mean, Chris and I looked at each other and we were like, how the heck are we going to be able to continue to build our pipeline now that we can't go out and actually physically see somebody? So we were confident in selling. We were confident in our consulting services. I wasn't comfortable or confident putting any of our secrets out on social media. And the bottom line is we're all special, right? We all have things that we're good at. And if you're not willing to share those things to the right audience, then how is anyone ever going to want to know how special you are? And how can you fix my problem? So, and that's been a journey, Andy. I mean, when we first started creating content, it had nothing to do, I shouldn't say nothing, it had very little to do of how we're helping our clients reduce cost, engagement, so on and so forth. So a lot of it, right, Buyer, was really general, right? It's like, here's our process. This is the process, that we want to take you through. Yep. And then really, once we go through that process, we're going to, really help you identify 1, 2, 3, whatever. But
and I think, Chris, we also talked a lot about who we are too, because you and I played off the fact that we're both Chris B. We're both former college athletes, both 6 foot something, glasses. Our dads are Larry. We're born in June, just kind of some freak stuff. So we went for that and just talked about the uniqueness of the two of us as a team. That was probably our first 6 months. Yes, some ideas, but here's who we are. Get to know us so that if we're calling on you as an employer, as a prospect, you know who we are. Where today, when I pick up the phone, they don't know me from any other broker, any other firm, and our agency name didn't matter at all.
Yeah, that I didn't know that about you guys. So you're both CB.
Yep.
Well, your dads are both Larry, and you're both born in June.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, there's even more freaky stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, talk about this. I didn't intend to ask you guys this, but Chris Byer, how did you guys get started? Because obviously content evolves over
Yeah.
the years, but like go back to those early days of creating content. What was your focus?
Oh, it's bad.
So initially, before the two of us posted things, I jumped in first, and I was posting one video a week, either a video of me just on my iPhone talking about who I am, or here's a topic. I'd post a picture and talk about how that applied to business or how that applied to leadership. I think coming out of your academy, we talked a lot about the fact that both of us like to provide advice, that we're very much in giving the right answer or helping somebody along that journey. We're not like everybody else, but this is what we do well. And so once we started to post early on, I mean, it was pretty raw video. I mean, it was us with a pretty poor quality camera, no background. We just put out a video as we started. I mean, our first one, we recorded like an hour-long rambling session about everything we could ever do for an employer, and then realized that that doesn't work. So we learned quickly, you've got to make it, 5 to 8 minutes, very specific, very targeted, and make it all about who's listening to you.
And I believe when you guys got started, correct me if I'm wrong, did you guys just go on Zoom and hit record?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We still use Zoom. We still do, but it was truly,
Everybody hear that? Say that again.
we still use Zoom. We do nothing different than this. Hit record, and there's your video. And we're not really doing much from an editing standpoint. We want it to be normal. We don't want it to be over processed. If we laugh, if we mess up, if we joke around, we're just going to use it because we're being normal.
So I'd love your thoughts on this, because this is another big topic. When you guys started, maybe your philosophy has shifted. There is the whole debate with content. Is it to generate inbound leads? Or is it to generate awareness to build credibility? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Chris Boling.
You said something the first day of your academy that really woke me up. And it was like, do you realize if you reach out to a prospect, they are going to look you up before they ever call you. So how relevant are you when they look you up? If you're not on LinkedIn, if you haven't updated your profile in 10 years, you have no content out there, you're not talking about specific things, why in God's green earth would you expect that prospect would have confidence that you can help them? And that light bulb went off, because this whole younger generation, they are absolutely going to look you up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. They're going to figure out, who is this person, before I ever want to take a second of my valuable time to return their call.
Yeah. We've written one group off of one inbound lead in 3.5 years. That's it. And that lead was somebody that, again, was a former prospect that went to work at a new employer and said, hey, we're not getting what you're talking about. Could you help us out? Other than that, it has only been awareness when we walk in the room or join the meeting that we know that group understands who we are. I think that it hit hard maybe May of that first year of content when we walked into a meeting and the CFO introduced us to his entire benefits team as, here's CB Squared. You can check these guys out on LinkedIn. And we looked at each other. We're like, whoa, somebody was actually watching what we were talking about, because we were branded as CB Squared at that time. And that's the awareness you want, because that means they had to have seen what we were talking about, whether it's HR or CFO related content in the past.
I was going to save this question for later, but might as well go to it. First, for everybody listening in, I want you to go back to what Chris Boling just said. When people look you up, what are they going to find? And if you don't work at a big agency, Chris and Chris work at Assured Partners. Maybe you work at Mercer or Marsh, where it's a big corporate website. If you're more of an independent company, I want you to go Google the name of your agency when you get a chance. And if you're not showing up as the first thing on Google, you better think about how you get it up there, because that matters today. And guys, you'd be surprised how many times Chris Floria and I Google an agency's name and it doesn't even show up on page 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And so you really got to start thinking about this stuff. Now, I was going to save this for later. You guys just said in 3 years, you've created one inbound lead where somebody actually messaged you.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
But
it.
talk a little bit about how awareness has grown your business.
Yeah.
I'll let you go, CB.
Our largest client today, same thing. We walked into the boardroom, 10 people in the boardroom. The CFO said, here comes CB Squared. If you don't watch them, start watching them, because this is going to help us get better. Now, we didn't know we were going to get hired. I mean, it was a process, and very large company. They had a very good broker in there currently, long-standing relationship.
Yeah.
We had no clue that that CFO was actually watching us weekly. Now we do, right? Because now we actually pay attention as to who's liking it, and obviously you have to get engaged with the people that are liking it. But yeah, it's radically changed our success in the last 3 years. We were successful. I had no idea where our book of business would go, through many things, right? Obviously, you still got to make the calls, but just the awareness alone, Andy, I think makes us feel extremely confident. Maybe we shouldn't be extremely confident, but we are confident.
Yeah. Fire, how about you? I mean, you think about the awareness. You use the example of walking in to that group, and I believe it was actually a public sector prospect that you walked into that said, "Hey, this is CB squared." What has awareness done? What has awareness done? Like you talked about confidence, Chris Byer. When somebody is at that decision-making point of thinking about hiring you or maybe somebody else, how confident are you guys today to guide them towards your content to give them the confidence to hire you?
Yeah, that's a good point, Andy. I think we've had enough of here's how we make our clients better topics, you name it, healthcare costs, employee experience, helping HR be more efficient, whatever it might be, that we can now say, hey, if you have a question about this aspect of what we're proposing to help you with, we talked about it a year ago. Here's the video link. I think the consistency between what we say in an initial meeting, in a discovery meeting, in our proposal is mirroring what is online. I think that consistency has helped us. Not that we were making anything up, but it's the fact that we're saying the same thing in both in person and online, that we don't have to worry that somebody's going to see a different message. And it's not that the message would be bad if it's different. It's just consistent. This is what we do. You see it. And here's how we're going to actually do it for you in real life when we come and meet you.
I'm going to add something really quick, Andy, because
go ahead.
Also, like in the first few weeks of your training, you said, okay, now let's go one step further. They Googled your agency. Is what you're saying represented well on your agency? Now, we cannot control AP's website. There's no way we're going to be able to call them and say, hey, we need this. But what we do look at is, is our message somewhat tied to what AP is putting out weekly? We don't mirror it. We don't copy and paste that crap, which I hate. But we don't want to say something completely opposite of what our brand is trying to put out there to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one thing I wanted to mention there. We talk about it all the time today. The 3 things you got to have today is a good website, a good LinkedIn presence, and a YouTube channel if you do videos. Simply because when people Google you, those are the first 3 things they're going to show up.
Yeah.
And Chris Boling, I think what you just said, I want everybody to hear, because this is a challenge I see a lot of, call it the outside the box advisors working at the independent agency struggle with. They go out and they say they have a really good message, right? Prospects never heard anything like that before. Then they go check out their website and all they see is traditional insurance agency.
Yep.
And that
all the SEO words listed out for everything.
That disconnect in messaging is a loss of credibility.
Yeah. I think, Andy, you talked about that when we were going through your academy, and when we still were not assured partners by brand. We were a 45 employee multi-lines agency, 3rd generation. So we were really able to still mirror that. And I think the smaller agencies have a better opportunity with that, because you have the flexibility to create a landing page for yourself, for your brand. We can't do that now just because of corporate, corporate rules. But I think that's where, as I've seen other advisors go through your program, the brand they've created online matches what they have for their personal landing page. And I think all that syncs up. It's so much simpler when you're a smaller firm.
Can you guys just go off again? Another question I didn't intend to ask, and this won't be applicable for everybody on the webinar, but because you guys do work at a large firm, Assured Partners, can you talk a little bit about, for somebody listening who might be at a bigger firm, how have they been able, or how have they given you some of that flexibility? I know there was a give and take here of giving you the opportunity to continue to still be you guys in the content and the flexibility to do what you're doing. Would you guys mind talking about that just for a minute or two?
Yeah, I think, we have some branding guidelines that we have to follow. You'll see we've got our backgrounds. That's the only logos we can use. We can't put logos in our posts. I mean, there's things that they say, there's certain, proprietary things we can't share in our videos, but really the key to this was that we were doing it well. We weren't putting out bad content that was poorly produced, that looked, cheap, that was way off topic, saying things that didn't fall in line with what we could actually do. And yeah, we had to come up with some of those, guardrails for us. But once we did, the proof came in, the new clients we were bringing in. It was hard for, marketing to say, hey, cut back on this when we were writing the revenue that we were, but we've been in communication with them for the last 3 years. Here's what we're going to do. This is how we're going to put this out there. This is make sure we're not doing something that would go against what AP looks at. And I think you can talk to your larger firms about that. They have a brand to protect, and I don't disagree with that. But just that brand alone is not going to sell new clients.
They planned on shutting us down. And then thank goodness we hired a firm to help us day one with content. Literally, Chris and I are in Denver. We're at this training thing, and somebody comes up to us from AP and says, "Oh yeah, we know what you're doing." And I remember Chris and I are like, "Oh, we are in trouble." So they had every intention shutting us down, not doing what we were doing. And they looked at our content, and their exact words were, "This is so professional. We're having a hard time to figure out how to shut you down." So again, I go back to thank goodness, because this isn't us creating the content. All we do is produce the video. But Chris and I,
let's pivot right to that, Chris. You guys made a decision early on to invest in a team to help you do this.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of people sitting out there. To me, that's an investment in marketing to grow your business, right? ROI. Why did you guys make the decision to do that? You've already explained one win on how it's helped you, but why did you guys make a decision so early to hire a team to help you?
I think the fourth quarter of 2024, the first 3 months I was putting out content, my wife helped me download Canva app, and I was creating my own stuff. Lindsay does a great job with graphic design. I am not good at it, but I was putting out one post a week. When Chris and I realized we want to do this well, we want to do a video, we want to take advantage of all possible ways to put content out 5 days a week, every week. We recognize that we're not good at that. That is not our skill set. We can get in front of a camera and we can speak with something meaningful, but we don't have time to write copy. We don't have time to edit posts and do all of those things that are there. And it just came back to what's our time worth, because there's a professional team, build your online brand. Nancy and her team have been phenomenal for us, but they set us up for success every single week.
Yep.
Yeah. I think if you look at most agencies today and say, what percentage of your revenue are you spending on marketing? It's a very, very small percentage, much lower than what it should be. And the money being spent on marketing is still being spent on what I would call the traditional methods of marketing, sponsoring the golf hole at the local outing, maybe a banner or a billboard. Social media marketing is something you have to be spending some marketing dollars on these days. It's a must. You have to be spending money to create awareness.
And Chris, you can speak to that. I mean, early on, we paid for it ourselves until we had proof of concept.
I remember explaining that charge to my wife every month. Oh, what is this hitting our credit card? And I just remember saying, just bear with us. I'm telling you, yes, it's probably going to be a year before we see any return on our, true investment, time and money. But I promise you, this thing will start paying off. And she's like, okay, fine. And it did.
Well, and I think if you guys don't mind me sharing this, for anybody who might be wondering, in our prep meeting, you guys said by the end of this year, there's a good chance you will double your business in the last 3 years. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
When everybody hear that, double their business. And these aren't guys that started with a $250,000 book of business. They will have doubled their book of business in the last 3 years on the back of creating a boatload of awareness. So let's get into the tactics, guys. Okay. Let's start with the Chris Beyer. What does your content creation process look like today?
As we look at this year, this has been our best year. We spent time with Blake, one of our team members, in December of last year, and we mapped out the entire year. So we looked at this rather than us coming to a certain week and saying, man, we got to record something, Chris, let's just make something up. We have each and every week as a topic. So for us, we're looking at what's the theme of the month. Is it colon cancer awareness? Is it heart awareness? Is it, eye vision awareness month? Whatever might be, we're going to talk about that. We're going to have a topic that's going to help an HR professional relay that message to their employees. And then we're going to have a topic that the financial team or the CFO can now use that discussion piece. And then we sprinkle that in with interviews of our clients. We do an in-focus interview where we interview our clients and let them tell their story, not to talk about us, but tell me about your fourth generation business. Tell me what makes you unique as an employer. And then we have some fun stuff. My daughter loves coming up with the goofy questions for Chris and I to answer, to try to embarrass ourselves, on a fifth week of the month.
Talk about that though. You guys are one that has taken something we preach, which is interview clients, prospects, peers, whoever. Interviews. Talk about Chris Boling. Talk about how is that impact? Like, why did you guys feel that was something you wanted to lean into?
It's just something different versus, our same, listening to our voices, which are not, impactful. And it's also like our clients really appreciate that we're giving them a platform to only talk about themselves. Like we have 5 standard questions. Not a single question is, why did you hire us? That's not relevant. It's tell us about your business. How did you get into the role that you're in today? And then we promote that business that entire week. So many of those posts will be their quote, that maybe they came up with, links into their website if they're trying to hire HR, CFO, whatever. That whole week is all about them. And we feel that once again, our clients are thankful that, that we're not trying to spin this of why did you hire me? And, why am I a great broker? Nobody cares. Tell us about you.
And we're fortunate to have some really, really fun clients.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, that's the other thing of this too, is it's really helped us narrow down. If you understand what we want to do to help you and we're a fit, we know we can move forward. And so it's fun to be able to let them tell their story, because there's some unique businesses in the Midwest that we're working with that they don't get their story outside of their community. And that's been fun too.
Well, and it brings up a really relevant point. People love to talk about themselves.
Absolutely.
That's why podcasts are such a good medium. People love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, guys, maybe the answer is no. Have you guys ever used the interview strategy to get yourself in front of a prospect?
We did one.
Did
Okay.
We did. We interviewed a hopefully soon to be client one time.
Okay.
And in our introductory meetings, found out that the HR team was just doing some really cool things that were helping them with recruiting and retention. And so we're like, would you like to be interviewed? And that, that was a long time ago, and we're close to being hired by that employer group. But it was just, you've got to tell what you're doing, because what you're doing in the market you're in is so unique. We want to highlight you.
Yeah,
one
That's
time.
cool. That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah. I want everybody to hear that interviews are a great strategy for content. One, the interview is going to be 10 to 20 minutes at least. So you're going to have a lot of content to create or to pull from it. But there's nothing better than to let a client tell their story. And to Chris Boling's point, it's not why we hired ABC Agency, why they're the best thing since sliced bread. No, it's just let them tell their story. There is Gary V has a philosophy that he calls be the host of the party, right? We all went to high school with a kid who wasn't that popular, but he had one advantage. His parents were out of town all the time. So what did he do? He threw the house parties and he became the cool kid. That's the philosophy of the interview, guys. You interview people, let them talk about themselves. You're the host of the party. You get benefited for that.
Yeah.
So think about how you can start interviewing clients and teammates and whoever to leverage that as content. Now, you guys did not buy into something at first that I want to talk about, because I think you do believe in it now. Giving away the farm, giving away the secrets. This is something people get so hesitant about. We live by, hey, if you give away the farm, you reap the harvest. I want you guys to, because Chris Boling, you said that early, like we were hesitant. We didn't want to share much. Talk about how your philosophy has changed around that today.
Well, when you're putting content out every single week, Andy, I got to be honest, there's only so much shit you can talk about. So we finally got to the point where we're like, hey, we got to share where we're finding the biggest success of impacting our clients' plan. And I remember Byron and I were very skeptical. Now we still may not say the name of the organization that we're using, but we're still going to talk about, like pharmacy, all the different ways you can impact pharmacy cost. And then we've actually interviewed the companies that we're using to help impact that cost. But that took time. I mean, we did not want to get into our secrets, which, let's be honest, none of us have something completely proprietary that you can't manipulate, copy, and steal.
Yeah.
That I really think, Buyer, in the last year has brought even more awareness as to why we're able to get into more doors, because we're sharing these things.
Yeah, our legacy agency president, Bill, was always good at helping us in a prospect meeting. How much do you give away before you ask to be hired? And what we've realized is the ideas aren't, I guess, earth shattering. There's a lot of consultants that are doing the same things we are, but it's our process to identify what fits for you and then help execute for you as the client. That is what we think sets us apart. So if we're going to share the idea, my biggest hope is that employer goes back to their current broker and says, hey, why don't we do this? And then that's a scramble where we have the confidence that we've already done it. So to Chris's point, we're going to share exactly the 5 things we're talking with our clients about in the third quarter, or the 6 things you need to keep in mind as you're going into open enrollment as an HR professional, because that's what we're telling our clients. And this is what it feels like to work with us just via LinkedIn.
I love that. I remember when I started my first email campaign in 2015, and if I look back, I wrote almost $200,000 off that campaign. And what worked, the reason it worked is because I would literally throw a strategy in there, like the name of the partner, the name of the strategy. And I'd give it to them. I'd be like, guys, you should try this. Here's why it's a good idea. Here's what it's going to do for you.
Yep.
And I knew they could literally take the PDF and give it to their broker.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to do it anyways. But I will tell you that led to more people going, holy cow, this guy's taught me more in 1 year than my broker has in 5 years.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
And I think for everybody listening, as far as content goes today, what works is tactical and give them quick wins, things they can go do right away.
Yes.
And when you're right at that point, when you're feeling like you're giving it too much away, where you want to say, and that's why you should call us, keep going. Give it away.
Agreed.
Don't make it cheesy.
Yep. 100%. Let's talk about, okay. Yes, you guys have a team, but the content is still built off of videos. So you
Yes.
have to do those videos.
Yep.
You're doing one video every week. Talk
Correct.
about how are you blocking time to sit? What does that look like right now to sit down and get all the videos recorded that you need to record?
Chris, you talk about us, I'll talk about Brad.
So yes, in the beginning, we had Friday morning at 9 o'clock. Every Friday, we would record our one video. And this year, as Chris said, it's been our best years by creating all of our content in one day for 12 months. Now we spend 45 minutes, 1 day per month, and we record all 4 or all 5 of our videos. Where before we were spending about 30 minutes every single week. Why? Because we would get on the camera and be like, Chris, what do you want to talk about today? Well, I don't know. What do you want to talk about? And we realized we can be a lot more efficient if we plan our year out and then bam, get on one day, knock out 4 or 5 videos in 30 to 40 minutes, and then it's done. And then let Nancy's team run with it. So
And then in 2022, one of our largest competitors in terms of inability to take business from Brad Johnson and his agency joined Assured Partners. And so we instantly went from competitors to coworkers. And Brad is such a good technical expert. So we've added that in. So on Thursdays, each week, we do a bottom line Thursday, which is highlights from the newsletter he sends out. And so that's another 45 minutes for the 3 of us to get on and record 4 or 5 of Brad's topics on what's happening in the world of business and benefits. And then the rest of the time is Thursday morning, 8 to 8:30. We hop on. We look at the posts that are scheduled to go out. We look at the wording. We look at the graphics. And then we're working through a program called Trello. So we can make adjustments and tag the team and say, hey, this needs to be reviewed. This needs to be updated. And that's it. So it's 30 minutes once a week. 45 minutes with Brad once a month, 45 minutes, the 2 of us once a month.
That's awesome. I'm curious, and I know we addressed this already earlier, talking about awareness and how awareness has helped you win some business over the last 3 years. Do you guys have a specific example at all where maybe a prospect who ended up becoming a client referenced the fact that that content, that awareness helped check the box of credibility that really gave them the confidence to hire you guys. Do you have any specific examples of that?
I mean, I would say we got hired by a bank that I had been calling on since I started in 2016. And we had struggled with the HR director who was, close to retirement, multi decades in the role, trusting that there was something better out there. And their CFO, who was, around my age, was able to come into that meeting with the team and say, I know you say it couldn't be better than what we're doing, but here's why. And referenced a couple of the topics that we had shared. So it was proof of, we're not just telling you we can do all of this. Here's the examples we put up online over the last couple of years. And I think that one alone helped her feel comfortable that, yeah, I can decide to fire my long-term broker because there is really proof that Chris and Chris are going to do something different.
What you just talked about there, for everybody tuning in, if you can see my hands right now, the sales cycle in our industry is not very short, right?
No.
But to me, the sales cycle is the difference between where a buyer is today and where they need to be to hire you. That's the gap. And what content can do for you, to what you just talked about, Chris, is content can shift somebody's perspective while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Because they're seeing your content. All of a sudden they're starting to go, okay, I get it. I see what they're saying. And then before you know it, when you actually meet with these people, they're 3/4 of the way ready to hire you because they've seen your stuff long enough.
Yes. Yes.
It shrinks that sales cycle. And so I think it's so important. Now, I didn't intend to ask this one either, but I'd be curious because you guys dove into video right away. And that can be the kryptonite for so many people. How, when you guys started with video, what was the I guess the theory that we're gonna do video, and did you have any fears, concerns when you got started?
Yes and yes.
Well, Andy told us we needed to do video, so we decided to do video, and we were scared to death. Yes.
How did let me ask, because you guys have obviously gotten a lot better on video over the years. What led you to feel more confident and more comfortable hitting the record button? Is it just reps, consistency?
The fact that a mistake or a not perfected phrase or us, talking over each other is just real life. When we're in meetings together, we're selling together. We're in the meeting at the same time. We're playing off each other's questions and answers. We know each other's verbal cues, physical cues. When we recognize that it's just like that, but the audience is the camera and it's not the prospect, we felt more comfortable. I mean, early on, we were very robotic. We have to say everything perfectly. And it was just awful. I mean, we weren't ourselves. We were way too buttoned up.
How about you, Chris?
Oh yeah, it was. I look straight in the camera. Don't move. Don't grab your coffee. And we just fumbled. I mean, but you know what? We learned a lot, and it's kind of what they say: practice makes perfect, right? And don't be scared to fail, because guess what? If you fail on camera, just don't post it. Delete it.
Well, I even say if you fail and you post it, you're human.
Oh yeah, totally.
So true.
Right. But here's one more thing I want to ask about video, because we get a lot of people who want to create video, but they come out of the gate and they want to create these short clips. And I'm like, guys, if you sit down and create a 45-second video, it is going to take 30 takes to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys got into the longer form video right away. Do you think that you found yourselves more relaxed the longer the video was?
Yes.
For sure. For sure. And our video now is probably, again, 5 to 8 minutes, maybe 8+ if we're interviewing somebody, because that goes longer. But it's, Chris, what are we going to talk about today? We already know our topic. We have our 3 or 4 points, but it's here, you cover this, talk about it, let's go. And then we finish up. We just know when it's time to wrap up. But it's like we would have a conversation with our buddy just sitting there at the table, or having a drink and just saying, hey, let's talk about this topic. It's very laid back. It's not us having to have a full outline and follow every bullet point. It's just, it's very conversational and casual.
Cool. Well, this has been awesome. As we start to wrap up, let's get into some reflection questions. So you guys have been doing this now for over 3 years. Looking back over the last 3 years, is there anything you would have done differently?
My thought with that would have been early on more, this is me personal stories than this is us in the professional space. We just didn't, we talked about our CB squared personalities and our similarities, but it wasn't like, let me tell you a story about me. It was more the two of us talking about, we are in the professional space and here's why. I would have gotten right into, this is what makes me me, and be a little bit more vulnerable early on, as opposed to, again, as rigid as we were to try to hit all the bullet points.
How about you, Chris?
I agree 100%. Is our best posts, our best impression days are when Chris and I have some fun topic, you know, tell us what the worst meeting you've ever had with a client. What dumb thing did you say that backfired and you didn't write that client? You know, I mean, that's us being real, right? Because we're not perfect, obviously.
Yeah, I think what the people are looking more for now than they ever have is they want personality, not perfection.
Absolutely.
So the people that are trying to be perfect, super professional, polished, you become robotic.
Yes.
And I think they just want you to see you. They want to see you being human.
Yeah.
And
it's something,
I tell
as
people,
much as, you know,
go ahead, Chris.
Pre-COVID, I was in a jacket, tie, cufflinks every day, because that's what you do in the insurance world. Now that it's been post-COVID, I'm in a polo every time. Chris is in a button down, I'm in a polo, and we will dress as we need for in-person meetings, but you'll see us wearing that in social media and our pictures, because it's become our personality. I have to give Chris a hard time. He's older than me, so he has to dress up more than me. I'm younger than him. I can be a little more casual. So, but I think that's part of it too, is just, it's who we are. This is how we feel comfortable in this setting, and it mirrors how we are in real life as well.
You know, I think the best example of where COVID has impacted how you look is college basketball.
Yeah.
There was a time every coach was wearing a suit, right?
Yes.
Look at college basketball coaches today. Yeah. Shaka Smart at Marquette is wearing Air Jordans on the sideline. Like, nobody cares how you look.
Right.
So everybody listening who's going to do video, please hear me. Nobody cares how you look as long as the content is good.
Yeah.
So how about this, guys? We're about to go into Q&A. So if you've got a question for Chris or Chris, get it ready, because I am going to open up, and I'm just going to let you guys, whoever wants to chat, unmute yourself and fire away. If you want to put the question in the chat box, I can ask it for you. For the people who are listening in right now that are still sitting on the fence, maybe just getting started, maybe haven't even made their first post yet, what advice would you give that person? Chris Boling, I'll start with you.
Be yourself. Plain and simple. Think it through. What am I going to talk about? Be brief, be bright, be gone. That is my favorite phrase. Be brief, be bright.
I love that.
And if you don't have a team that can help you post 5 days a week,
it's been our pleasure serving you.
Well,
and if you're home, let us be the first to welcome you home. If you're visiting, may enjoy your stay.
Keith Wiegand, please
trouble
mute
trouble.
yourself. I just muted him. Of all people, it's got to be Keith Wiegand.
It's gotta be
Chris
Keith.
Fire, go ahead.
I would say, if you're thinking about this, pick the date, time of the week that you're going to post, and do it consistently. Even if it's just Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock and you're going to commit to doing that for the full year, be consistent, because there is a benefit to that. It does not have to be well produced. You don't need a team behind you. If you just put something up every week at the same time on the same day, you'll start to build awareness. And secondarily, interact with your followers, comment on their posts, follow them, engage with their company, be involved on the platform. Don't just put content out, be involved. And I think those two things are very easy to do for somebody who's just starting.
Yes.
That's awesome. That is great. That is great. Well, let's fire up some Q&A. I actually have, based on what you just said, Chris Byer, I got a question for you guys on that. All right. So here's a great question. Do you ever worry about others taking your content and using it for their own message? Example, your monthly messaging themes.
Go for it. Do it. We don't care.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, we're looking at what's the national theme of the month. Anybody can search for that. I think, again, it's what our thought process is to share advice on how to make that personal for you as an employer, and then what we're doing for our clients. Again, somebody else could do that for their client. They're not going to do it our way. And I'm comfortable to say, you know, we're going to give away that idea or that advice because we're confident we can deliver on it better.
Awesome. Awesome. Anybody else have questions? If you do, unmute yourself. All right, Vernon Bonfield, unmute yourself. Fire away.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
2 questions. Yeah. Yeah, this has been really good. I just wanted to know, number one, what is the name of, you guys have I assume a YouTube channel, and what is the name of that so I can go and check it out?
It's crazy. It's like Chris Boling. If you go
Oh,
to
really?
our most everything will be, if you connect with us on LinkedIn, we do host them on YouTube, but we don't actively use the YouTube channel to push stuff out. It's just a hosting page. So I would say anything that you would link from our LinkedIn, you'll find those videos themselves.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
the second question is, you mentioned Nancy and her team does a lot of your stuff. What's the name of her company? And did she also create like an intro for your videos, or does she just edit the raw footage?
So it's BYOB, Build Your Online Brand, Nancy Evans. Andy helped get us connected through our mutual connections with our academy. When we were going through that, they do help us with putting in subtitles, and they can edit if need be, but most of the time we give ourselves enough length on the start and finish that we don't need to have any sort of editing, but they are capable of doing that.
Thanks.
Morning.
Yeah, Vernon, full transparency. That's the team we use today. Nancy Evans at Build Your Online Brand. Yeah. Yeah. A couple more questions. These are great. Have you found that certain days of the week or time work better than others for reactions?
Can't say that for sure. We are now, Monday is a video, 7 a.m. Central. Tuesday is a newsletter, 7 a.m. Wednesday is an infograph. Thursday is the Bottom Line Thursday with Brad video. And Friday is a quote or something tying into what we said earlier this week. But all of those now are going out at 7 a.m. Central. We're not really tracking the engagement by time or date. We just want to be consistent with it going out the same time and happening every single week.
Awesome. One note I'm going to add to that, guys, don't be afraid sometimes to post on weekends. Yeah. There's actually less noise on the feed. I found some of our weekend posts do really well, especially on a Sunday night, because people are coming back, looking at LinkedIn to get ready for the week. So don't just feel it has to be a Monday to Friday thing. But to Chris's point, even if you're going to post once a week, I'd go consistent on the day of the week that you're posting. Chris Boling, this is a big one. This is one I wanted to ask you, and Josh Hoppy threw it in the chat.
What's up, Josh?
What's up, Chris?
Former Aflac guy, right?
Yep.
Okay. Content creates awareness, but talk about the work you guys also do with making connections, maybe sending some messages. Talk about the importance of that as well, because content alone isn't going to create the activity.
I will admit Bayer's way better at this than I am, but every 7:30 sitting in my calendar every day is for me to get on LinkedIn, start liking our clients' posts, start reacting to people that have liked us, and then Nancy, her husband Scott is an amazing person to help you optimize your LinkedIn profile, but he's also really good at training us how do we connect to people. So every week I find 5 people, CFOs, HR directors of either future prospects or current prospects that maybe I have not been able to actually, really connect with, and then I'll send them a brief message. And please, for the love of God, do not have an auto reply. Once they say yes, bam, great, let's get on the phone. I mean, that's an immediate delete. I just want to say, hey, I'm Chris Boling, blah, 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 blah.
I would add to that as well. I don't connect with anybody unless I've met them or I've had an interaction, but I will follow all of my prospects and I will follow all of my prospect companies so that their content is showing up on my feed so I can interact with them. I just don't feel right about sending them a message to connect until I've truly met them, but that's my own opinion. The following gives me the same access to what they're posting, and then I can interact on the feed as opposed to in the direct message. And then I can interact on the feed as opposed to the
last question, guys. Camera. I think I know the answer. What kind of camera do you guys use today for your videos?
Like a $48 camera and a $30 mic.
Yeah, I'm using the camera on my Dell laptop. I've got a ring light, and I'm borrowing my daughter's microphone that she uses when she has fun recording videos. So
point being, you do not need $1,000 camera. No. You do not need the best microphone out there, guys. I will tell you, for my iPhone and Android users, if you have one of the newer phones, these are the best freaking cameras that are out there. So whether you're using a webcam on your computer or your iPhone, you don't need anything other than that these days. So I will say this too, guys. I'm going to throw this in the chat box. I just put Chris Floria's email address from our team. Guys, this is what we teach in the Social Media Sales Academy.
Yep.
So since Chris and Chris were part of our other academy, we have just locked in on teaching you how to use LinkedIn to grow your business. So if you want to know more, I threw Chris's email address in the chat box. Go grab it, email him, say, hey, man, I want to know more. But this is what we teach, guys. Our next session starts September 4th. It's our last one of the year. Anything you guys want to leave with? Any final thoughts, Chris or Chris, before we let everybody go here at the top of the hour?
I have to just say thank you, because without you, Andy, we would not have created this content. We would not have been probably confident enough to think that it would have an impact on our business. You taught us way beyond what we've talked about here. Cannot thank you enough.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. And, you know, as we've got some of our original academy members on the call today, I think the other aspect of this is we don't join your academy or we don't go through your course to find other people to work with, but we have naturally found 2, 3, 4, 5 different people from our original group that now we're working together on clients because we found a fit. And I think those that are joining your academy are people that are trying to be better. And I think that network alone has been valuable for us over the last 4 years.
Here's what I tell you guys. If you are somebody who's confident, you have the good strategies, the intelligence, you're looking for a new channel to grow your business, that's what this is for. If you're looking for the secret sauce or a Hail Mary to save your business, I can't help you there. But this is what the Academy is for. We do have one more question. Bob McCollin says, CB squared, you guys rock. That is one gentleman you guys made a connection with in the Academy for sure.
Summer of 2020.
Kevin Grace, you have a question. Let's fire one more away.
All right. No, it's more of a comment. I know hearing these guys go 0 for 12, I was at Assured Partners, and there's a lot of producers. They were always in the top 5, top 8 producers across the country. So what they're doing's got to work. And that's why I'm here. I saw you guys were part of Andy, and you know, I got 1,000,005 texts from Andy over 7 years. So finally dug in.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Well, everybody who's attended, I want to thank you for attending. You guys will be getting a recording of this if you want to share it with anybody on your team. Chris and Chris, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking the time to do this. I know this takes you out of your work time, but this was fantastic, guys. You are a model of consistency. Guys, this isn't about any secret scripting or how to do the right perfect hook in a video. It's about showing up week after week. And that's why I wanted these guys on, is they have showed up every single week with content. And that's what's led to the success they're having today. So if you're ready to take execution, that is what's going to help you win. So Thank you, everybody. Have an amazing weekend. Like I said, be expecting an email this afternoon with a copy of the recording. Have a good weekend, guys.
Thank you all.
We'll see you.
Chris and Chris, if you guys can stay.
Yep.